Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of What the Nell. I just quickly want to come on here and give you a disclaimer that if you are watching the video on this episode, just know that about 3/4 of the way through, our cameras went out, so you'll see a static image of the logo across the screen. But not to fear, the content and the value is still here in this episode. So just wanted to give you that quick disclaimer and let you know what you're in for. But also, what else you're in for is a really awesome episode with my friend and independent songwriter artist, Lea Brown, and she has so much to talk about, especially for women in the music industry. So get cozy and settle in for a really awesome episode, and welcome Lea Brown to the What the Nell podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the What the Nell podcast with yours truly, Nell Tice. I am really excited. I always say I'm super excited. I'm really excited this time for my guest today, who is Lea Brown. She is an independent artist, singer-songwriter, producer, and in her spare moments, she is a teacher for kids with special needs. She is currently living in the Central Florida area. However, being a singer-songwriter has afforded her opportunities to network and collaborate with some of the best Trop Rock artists and writers. She is the mother of 7, holy cow, only 4 of whom are at home now, but she loves making music and supporting others as they learn the game. Jenny, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited that we have connected. I know we've spoken before in Kenny's chat during his live radio show on Wednesday nights. Shameless plug, 7:30 Eastern on Radio Trop Rock. Uh, but I am super interested to talk to you about being a woman, an independent artist, and a mother, and juggling it all. I think we just briefly spoke about how important it is to support each other. And I got to tell you, there's a few names in Trop Rock that I know now, especially female names, but there's
Mhm.
not a lot. So, we're going to dive into that. But first, I have to know, how did music become part of your life?
I have been a musician, I think, since I could sing. I mean, like the minute I could talk. So
Oh my
I've
gosh.
always played instruments, and I was really lucky that my parents put me in piano lessons and voice lessons. And then I just kind
Yes.
of picked up instruments easily and
Oh my
ended up
gosh. So
here.
you just kind of had it.
Yeah, I've always been this.
That's super cool. That's super cool. That's not necessarily a talent that people, or I should say a gift that people just have. So you, my friend, are very talented. And speaking of music, so being in Trop Rock and collaborate, which by the way is a phenomenal community. So
Yeah,
those
it
of you
is.
out there that don't know what Trop Rock is, it is tropical rock. It is a genre of music that has some country origins and a lot of country forward music, but also it's just music about beachy lifestyle, the Jimmy Buffett lifestyle, and embracing all of that, so, which is super cool. So you get to collaborate with other artists. How did that come to be? Like, how did you get into the trop rock scene?
Actually, I moved to the Keys with my family. I want to say 4 years ago. Just had an opportunity to go down there, and so we went down there. And I was lucky enough to run into and became really good friends with another gentleman who runs another radio station. And I loved music, and I sang out, and I asked him, I was just like, "Hey, what does it take to ever make it on the radio?" Because that was definitely a goal. And anyway, he was just like, "Well, he's like, trop rock music is country music." He's just like, "It's just about." It's got to include alcohol and smoking some weed. I'm like, done. I got this.
I
And
could do
so,
it.
yeah. And so I wrote my first drop rock song, and it's been on the charts for like 3 years now, and I'm really grateful for that. But it afforded me the opportunity to get in there and like really meet so
Mhm.
many other writers.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, what part of the Keys did you live in?
Well, we started off in Key Largo, and then we ended up in the Big Pine area, and then we ended up at the very end of our time there in Key West, and
Mm,
um, and then just some family things came up, and I needed to come back to Central Florida, and so we made the decision to move back.
yeah. Okay, so I asked this question to somebody I just met this weekend who was born and raised, still lives in Annapolis, Maryland, which is on the water, of course.
Mhm.
Do you ever at some point lose that, like, I don't even know what to call it, like gratitude for living by the water? Does that ever just kind of like go away? Do you lose that? Do you just take it for granted?
Oh no, it was a choice. I mean, I moved to Florida. I was a sophomore in college when I moved here, and I always knew I wanted to live in Florida. I mean, from the time I was, like maybe 12 or so. And when I went to the Keys, we made it was a definite choice. We knew that we were making some sacrifices, especially with having as many kids as we had.
Hmm.
But it was worth it. We love being on the water. And honestly, our goal, we're looking at boats right now,
Yeah.
it's not the same, but it's still our goal. I mean, I feel like we'll always be water people. We're just waiting for the kids to all graduate now.
Yeah. I love that. Oh my gosh, I'm definitely a water person. I don't swim
Hmm.
very well, but I just like something about water is just
Yeah. Oh no, I love it. The smell of it, that wind, and it's perfect.
yeah.
I've always loved it.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah.
So, what do you think the biggest misconception is about independent artists, but more specifically women and in any genre of music?
It's a big double standard that exists out there. I think the reason why we don't have as many women in it is because we're the ones that raise the children.
Mm,
It's much easier for the guys to go out on the road and travel. And, the women I've seen tend to be at home and taking care of children. And
yeah.
I think people think that there's like a lot of money in being an independent artist, and there's not. It's independent means I got to come up with the money. And
Right, you're not
so,
backed by a big label.
yeah. And so every dime that I make in this is, people call it a hobby, but it's not a hobby. This is my love. This is my life. And so, but it took me letting my kids get to a certain point. But
Hmm.
I definitely have found, for the most part, people are really kind, but you do run
Hmm.
across a lot of people who are not. And you have to learn, you have to have a thick skin, and you have to be able to, some of the guys have been playing the game for a long time, and they don't realize, I have a degree in music. I didn't just like, just one day say, oh, I'm going to do this. There was some effort that went into it. And I don't know if it's a jealousy thing or if it's it's like I said, I think 90% of us support each other, and
Yeah.
we are just there for each other, no matter what, especially in Trop Rock. Um,
Hmm.
but there's that 10%, and boy, they can be tough, and you just have
Yeah.
to learn to not let it bother you.
So well spoken about that. And yeah, not that I've been in the music industry or, like even we're just still kind of learning the ropes, we're learning
Right.
terminology and we're meeting people and becoming more involved. And trop rock to me definitely seems like a more forgiving community where people
It
do
is.
actually support each other. People,
Mhm.
there's people that come together when natural disasters happened, and
Right.
it seems that way more so in trop rock than in other genres, honestly. And
Agreed.
it's very cool to see that community come together. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that people think, oh, she has a song on the radio, or oh, she has a podcast. She must make a ton of money. It must be nice. Couldn't be further from the truth.
Right. I know. My parents still think it's funny. They're like, you pick like the two poorest industries. I'm like, yep, sure did.
You can't help your gifts and your
Yeah.
God-given gifts, and that's what they really are. And I think that we as a society just need to shift the mindset and the thinking around a lot of these passions and things and how we treat that. And, it's kind of like, did you see the space shuttle launch yesterday, Blue
Yeah.
Origin, with all the women celebrities and everything? And afterwards, when they came out of the capsule, they were interviewed, and the interviewer was saying, "Congratulations, you are now an astronaut." And I was like, wait, no, they're not astronauts. They didn't go to school for however many years. They didn't go through hundreds of hours of training. I mean, yeah, they went through like 2 days of training,
Right.
but if something happened up there in that capsule, I I couldn't tell you that one of them would even know what to do or what buttons to
Right.
push or anything like that. So calling them astronauts is a little bit of a stretch. So when you have some history behind your passion and your livelihood and things like that, like that's like the real substance to what you're doing.
Yeah. And it's been,
Yeah.
I mean, I knew because I had children, as a young person, I knew I wasn't going to be able to travel. I knew I was not going to be able to go on the road. I knew that I was not, I could write and I could go in the studio, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
And when I finally got to the point where I was able to do it and I had the support system around me that I could do it, I did it. And I'm
Hmm.
really grateful now that I have it. But you know what? I'm not a 20-year-old woman.
Yeah.
There's a lot of experience that goes behind my songs.
Mhm.
And, I think that, I think that that's been used to help me like really reach people, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. I love that so much. So, speaking of being a mother, I mean, my goodness, 7 children, hats off to you. So, how do you balance like motherhood, being the independent artist? And you mentioned that you teach special needs kids,
Right.
in there somewhere too. I mean, how do you balance all of that?
Well, I mean, there was times I had to take off, I mean,
Hmm.
any of us can do math, and being a teacher is not a high paying job. So
Yeah.
anytime I had kids that were within like I would have had two in daycare, I knew I had to take off. And so I always took off. I mean, there was
Hmm.
just it made no sense to work and not, make enough money. And so I would take a couple years off teaching and then I would go back and then I would take a couple years off and I would go back. And it was 25 years of doing that, And so
Yeah.
finally, my youngest one is now 11 and the oldest one is, 26. And I'm just like, "Whew, okay."
Are any of your kids musically inclined like you?
Um, honestly, most of them are really musically talented, but
Yeah.
I think because mom was always on the stage and mom has always been as involved in it as I am, I think it has really deterred them from it. But yeah, actually, most of my kids have excellent singing voices. They pick up instruments like it's nothing. My youngest one, honestly, she has this incredible voice, but I think it's very intimidating, I think, to
Hmm.
them because I've done it. And I feel really bad about that, you know. But one of my sons is a
Yeah.
pastor, and so like,
Gosh.
you know, you almost like have to like lead youth choir, at some point if you're a pastor.
Yeah.
And so he does, have to do that, and I think that's good for him. But yeah,
Yeah.
they've all just naturally got it, and it's kind of neat. My
That's
dream
pretty
was
cool.
always to have a family band. It never worked out that
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I was going to ask,
way.
like, did they ever join in on your creative process or like writing or anything like that? I think it'd be really cool to have a family band.
Yeah, they have something to do with the writing, and I'll definitely like tap into them. The album I've been working on feels like forever now. It's called Songs About You. And the reason why it's taken so long is because I wrote a song for each person that was very significant in my life. Like I wrote one for my mother, and I wrote one for my stepmom because she was so significant in my life, and I wrote one for my dad. Okay, well now you get to all these kids, and it's like, all right, well you're easy to write about, and then this one's not really so easy to write.
Yeah.
you know? Like,
Oh,
you don't clean your bathroom, and that's what the song's going to be about if I write it right now. So
that's amazing. I love that. You're like making me cry over here. I mean, that's just the most amazing thing. You have this like built in material to write songs about, and each person in your life has contributed such a different or unique, whether it be a challenge or something,
Yeah.
you know, super exciting to write about, and you have those memories then recorded, which I think is just the coolest thing too.
And it's been neat, I mean, it's also been like a great like way to process my own stuff as I've gone along. I mean, like if you listen to like even some of the stuff I've put out recently that's not studio recorded yet, but I had
Hmm.
a nasty breakup at one point, and
Yeah.
I waited till I was able to sing about it. And I made sure it was a positive thing. And I did that on purpose because you know what? Every experience you have, every relationship you have, you take something from it. And hopefully you give something to that other person and you both grow as people and, you move
Yeah.
on, even if you don't really talk anymore. And so
Hmm.
I try to do, when it comes to songwriting in general, I know people don't realize I really try to make it positive, but I do. Sometimes those angry songs are just so much easier to write. But
Well, you know, I mean, Alanis Morissette made an entire career out of one
oh
album with a
yeah,
lot of angry songs, so it can be done.
yeah, it definitely could be done.
Yeah. Do you find writing and music in general is just very healing for you?
I do. I really do. It's again, when I finally had that support that I could go out and I could perform and I could, have gigs and I could, do even open mics and stuff. It was great for me because, I've been through this and there's so many people out there that have also been through this. And I
Hmm.
found that even as writing songs about my children, it's funny because those are the criers. Those are the songs that everybody cries whenever they hear. And it's a good cry, but they get it because, and so I've really tried to go with that. I understand that that is my audience and I have to, and I'll sing to my audience because they know what it's like to have kids go off to college, and what it's like. I have a couple of kids with special needs myself, and so writing about those challenges have been, but they're beautiful, and there are other people out there that experience that same thing. And so I love that I've been gifted that, that is a gift. It really is. And I don't take it for granted.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And you can tell how grateful you are to have that gift, which is really cool because I think too, you know, there are a lot of talented people out there that do have a gift, but don't even recognize it or realize it. And you could be, you know, helping someone else heal through music too, which you're doing, which is
Right.
absolutely amazing. I especially through I my favorite song of yours is Show Me Your Titos.
Yeah.
It's just a fun song, you
It
know?
is though. It is a lot of fun. And that's the song that got me, on the radio. And that was the
Yeah.
song, kind of joking. I sat down, one of my kids had showed me a picture of something and it because I like Tito's vodka and they
Yeah.
showed me this photo and it said, "Show me your Tito's." And I'm like, I'm gonna write that song.
That's
And he laughed
amazing.
and he was like, "You will not." And I sat down and in 20 minutes I'd written a song. And so we have a mutual friend, Harry, and I sent it to him because I knew he's like a dad, and I knew he would tell me this is good or it's not good or you should do this or not do this, just a good critique. And I sent
Yeah.
it to him, and he said, "You need to finish the song. It's a good song." And
Yeah.
I had it recorded, and it was on the radio within about a month. And it is a fun song, and I'm really grateful that so many people enjoy it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so cool. That's definitely like a get ready to go out song or while you're out or something like that. It's super cool. So w- being a woman in the music industry, have there been moments where you have felt especially seen or have felt especially overlooked at all?
yes, definitely. Oh, one thing in music I find interesting is that, like I said, there's kind of a double standard. I feel like as a woman, we have to look a certain way. We have to be a certain size, and I've noticed it across the genres. And, if I could be a guy, I
Mm.
could dad it up and I could be okay. But I've, people sometimes if you're too attractive at certain times, they pay attention to that and they don't pay attention to your songs. And at least in Trop
Oof.
Rock, I gained weight like 30 or 40 pounds at one point.
Mhm.
And I honestly did really, really well at that point. And I've lost like about 50 or so. So I'm back down, but I did it on purpose,
Mhm.
because I look at my friends that are also women in Trop Rock. And, unfortunately, I found that, we get more attention and we're taken, I don't know that we're necessarily taken seriously, but we get more attention if we look a certain way. And
Sure.
that's really difficult. And so, but it tends to work. So, I mean,
Can't
that's
argue
fine.
with it.
I'll eat the salad. It's fine.
That's like the quote that I'm going to pull from the episode. It's fine. I'll eat the salad. Yeah, I could certainly see, the music industry in general, I'm learning
Yeah,
is real tough. And
it is.
especially as a woman, I could see how, for sure, that would be of significance or significant importance to some or a
Right.
lot of people.
And it doesn't matter what genre you're in. I actually
Mhm.
started off I wanted to be a country music, or I wanted to be a Christian music artist, to be honest
Oh,
with you.
wow.
And I actually lived in Nashville for a while, and that was the goal. And in Nashville, it's just difficult. I don't care
Mhm.
what you're singing. The janitor sings amazing, and people don't realize you're a small fish in this really big pond. And so when I moved to Florida, I found I was able to sing, and get gigs and people would listen, and this worked out better for me.
Mhm.
But I also
Yeah,
found that the Christian route was not the route that I was meant to take.
sure.
And because, I say God can use you for anything. And you know what? I'm being used to touch people in a different way. And it's not necessarily, and sometimes they're funny songs, and sometimes, you know, it is songs about Tito's and stuff. But you know what? You got to meet people where they are. And God gave me that gift of gab, and that gift of being able to look at my crowd. And, I like singing to women that are my age. I think that it's fun because you know what? By the time they're my age, most of them have been divorced a time or two. And, they do have a bunch of kids. And you know what? Those kid stories, like I said, but that's something that you can't write about unless you have
Mhm.
experienced it. And so, this was where I was meant to be. And I get that. And I
Oh,
like
I
it.
love that. I love that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go out there and write books and do podcasts about kids because I don't have kids. Like, why would anybody listen to me? Like, that just doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, that makes the absolute sense for sure. So, what advice would you give to other women that are entering the music space?
It is really hard to learn to brush it off. Um, I've been to many auditions, I've
Mhm.
had that door slammed so many times. I even like tried out for like Idol and all that, back in the day when I was young enough.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
made it to a certain level, but it's not easy. And I would see
Sure.
people just be crushed. And I would look at these, men and women. But as a woman, my thing is stay true to yourself. Don't become what unless you just really want to be shaped and put into this industry and be in this box, you have to be you. I am a mom. I'm a mom first, and I'm a musician second. And
Mhm.
I'm probably a teacher after that. But, you have to be authentic.
Yeah.
I can't go on that stage. I can't do my hair up and put on, makeup and walk around in heels. Anybody that has ever seen me in heels will tell you that's just not a good idea. And so that's why you'll see me in boots. I can handle boots. So, but you have to be you. And if you're not going to sell it. Nobody's going to listen to me writing a song about something I really have no clue about. And so I've made it a point, and I've written songs with other people, and I've recorded duets with other people. And I'm not comfortable with it if I can't go out there and be true to it. And so I really try to be.
Yeah. Girl, you're speaking to everybody. You are speaking to everybody. I mean, that's one thing that we always talk about in business, especially, on other episodes of the podcast here, and, how being authentic is so important. And we rarely get to the meat of why. And it's just, yeah, you can't sell something that you have no clue about. And it's so crazy how similar songwriting and music is
Yeah,
to business in that sense too. You know, I mean, people will see right through that,
they
and they'll
will.
see that uncomfortable, you know, if you're wearing heels and you're not comfortable in
Hmm.
them, they'll see right through it. And I'll
Right.
absolutely agree. I used to wear heels all the time, but boots are just way more comfortable.
Oh, they're so cool though. Well, it's funny, like my students, at school, because even though they know I do this, it's almost like the Hannah Montana thing. Even though they know it, like when they see it, it just blows their mind. Because, then I
Yeah.
might, because depending, I might have the long sudden hair, like the extensions and they're like, Miss Brown, and they're just like blown away. And I'm like, you know what? I'm the same person. I'm just holding a guitar.
That's so great.
And but it cracks me up because, like if there's a festival, like I have a festival this weekend, and so on Thursday I'll probably go to school, you know, kind of done up a little bit to be ready for the next day. And it's so funny
Yeah.
because whenever I do that, they're all just like, "Whoa!" Like I'll have on the eyelashes. You'd be shocked at what people are like with eyelashes. They're just, and I'm just kind of cracking up because I'm like, seriously. I had on a t-shirt yesterday and I swear I was like same person. Just my hair is fixed today. So
You
that
know,
part's
just let
funny.
girls be girls.
Yeah. But it's, we were talking about being authentic, and part of it you can only play a part for so long.
Mhm.
And I can get up on a stage and yeah, I can, pretend 30 minutes or 45 or an hour or whatever. But when I get off that stage, when you speak to me, I want you to know that I'm still that person that you were talking to on that stage. And that part's really important. I want people to understand that, yeah, I am a mom and I chose to put my career, this part of my life off. I put it off for 25 years and I don't regret it at all. I have so much more I think that I bring to that stage now and I can brush it off, because people still say stupid stuff, you just,
Do they ever? Yeah, no, I think to go back to what you originally said, it's so hard to brush it off. It really is. And growing that skin, I think, is only something that comes with that time and that
yeah,
experience. And
it's maturity. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And you say,
Yeah.
you know, putting it off for so long, and maybe it wasn't even, there was some sort of divine undertaking for you to put it off for so long to get you to where you are now so that you can be
Yeah.
your best on stage and be your most authentic and handle that because yeah, it's something that is really hard to get past when you put yourself out there like that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of rejection. And like I said, 20-year-old
Mhm.
old Jenny's a lot different, you know, than who
Yeah.
I am now. And I used to, but I also learned early, I don't want to go to those auditions. I would
Yeah.
listen to people that were incredible and that was their full-time job. And they would be so devastated because they didn't make it on this show or this show. And I'm like, well, one, do you know anything about statistics? I'm like, statistically, you're not going to make it. I mean, and I'm like, but you are like living my dream. Like you're out making money every night, and you don't have to
Mhm.
have a full-time job. And I have to have a full-time job for our family to survive. And
Right.
so to me, you've got this dream life, and it's funny because maybe to them, I've got the dream life, you know, because I
Mhm.
did get to have all of these things. And it's just a matter of, again, there was a lot of rejection. I mean, tons. And it took growing some skin. And whenever I finally said, you know what, I don't want to be part of that circuit. That is not where I want to be. It's like you said, the Trop Rock people are so wonderful. The parrot heads are fantastic. And, you know, I wouldn't have gotten that, I think doing any other genre. And so if
Mhm.
anybody's listening to this and they don't know anything about trop rock, it's not just Jimmy Buffett, but it sure is a lot of fun.
So
So
well said. Yeah, that's amazing. So, okay, what is next for Jenny Lee Brown? Any exciting upcoming? You mentioned an album that you're working on. You mentioned a festival this weekend. Like, what's coming up? Give us all the details.
so basically like during the school year, like I've got it kind of because I have to work, and I have kids too. So
Mhm.
I know the festival schedule now, and I really try to hit this festival, this one, and just kind of keep myself out there because it's how you meet people.
Sure.
During the summer, I tend to do most of my recording. So that's why like a lot of things have been put off because it just makes more sense for me to be able to do it at that time.
Mhm.
Um, but I go on tour whenever I can, and it's happened a time or two, and it's really worked out well, and but it takes a lot. It's not for the weak, you
Yeah.
know, and it's learning to stand up for yourself, um, learning what you're worth, deciding what you're worth.
Hmm.
Um, that's another thing I've run into. People, will offer me less money than, perhaps the man that's in it. And I'm just like, nope.
Sure.
And I'll tell them no. I mean, I have locations even locally. I won't play, and I live in this town, but I won't play because they're not willing to pay me what I'm worth. And
Yeah.
I made the decision. No, this is what I want, and this is what, and I will turn a gig down, and I will drive 2 hours away to make double the money, in a heartbeat.
Good
Because
for you.
if you set your standard that low, you're never gonna be able to raise that bar.
For you. That's amazing. You have like there were so many mic drop moments in this episode. Like I just love it. So, as we come up to the end of the episode, I gotta say, like, I am every time I speak to someone, especially in the Trop Rock community, I'm in awe because there is definitely a different mindset. There's a different way of life that people really abide by. And it's the first time in my life that I feel like I'm getting the authentic, like, this is a real community.
Yeah.
And I am so glad that you came on here to do this podcast. And I'm so glad that we have been able to have this chat. And I just think you're a beautiful human, beautiful heart, and obviously
Oh,
beautiful
thank
voice.
you.
So tell people where can they find you? Where can they find your music? And how can they connect with you?
Okay, I am on YouTube. I
Oh,
definitely
nice.
want more subscribers. It's under
Yeah.
Jennylea Brown, just like the color.
Okay.
And that's where I've been popping out new music. I've just recently, like, I work with teenagers, and they're the ones who are teaching me how to TikTok. And so, thank goodness. So they're teaching me how to like edit
Yeah.
everything and like get those out there. So I think there will be more TikTok videos coming out.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
and again, it's under Jenny Lee. Everything's under JennyLea. I'm on Facebook under Jenny Lee Music and Jenny Lee Brown. I think
Okay,
I'm on
cool.
pretty much all platforms like Apple and, you know, like, I mean,
Okay.
I distribute everything out there, and it's pretty, you can just punch it in and find me. But if anybody is not sure, show me your Titos. Just tell them to put in show me your Titos. It will show up.
We will definitely make sure of that. And of course, you can also hear Jenny Lee Brown's music on Living Like Kenny on Wednesday
Yay.
nights at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Radio Trop Rock. I am super excited. I think we were just listening to Radio Trop Rock the other day and like randomly, or was it somebody's show? I think a song you did with Jeff Randall came
Yeah.
on because I was like, is that Jeff and Jenny? Like, this is a
Hmm.
beautiful song.
Yeah. That
I
one
hadn't heard
was,
it.
well, I kind of stalked him whenever I first moved back here. I found out I lived like 45 minutes from him, and I was like, hey, we should write together. And I like kept bothering him until he finally, I think he just agreed to get me to leave him alone. And so I went to his house, and it was so funny. It was like early in the morning, and we sat there and we just talked for a minute. And he was like, "What do you want to write about?" And I said, I want a happy song. If we're going to do a couple song that's cool." And I asked him, and have you met Julie, his wife?
I haven't met her, no. He has talked so many wonderful
She
things about
is,
her.
oh, she's incredible. And so I asked
Oh,
him, I said, what would be the thing that you would miss the most about your wife if you didn't have her? And he said, having coffee with her in the morning. I said, song. and
oh,
and so that's where that song was born. And it's one of my favorite songs. And it's funny because not a lot of people realize that we did that song. And so I perform it a
yeah.
lot, but he cracks me up because he forgets that we even did it. And We'll go to events and I'll be like, "Hey Jeff, you want to do that song?" And he's like, hold on, I got to listen to it." So, and it is a beautiful song, so
It is. He cracks me up. Oh my
he's
gosh.
wonderful. He
Yeah,
really is.
he is an amazing human. We had the pleasure of hosting him for a night here when he was up doing the Pirates in the Harbor Festival last year in 2024. And I've heard so at that point, I had barely connected with anybody, and Kenny was
Right.
making all these connections. And he just walks in and he was like shaking my hand, calling
Hmm.
me Miss Nell. And I was like, my gosh, like, who
Hmm.
are you? This is awesome. So
And he's just, yeah, he's great. And his wife, he'll tell
I'm
you,
sure.
he can't, she's amazing. She really is. So
Oh, I love that. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your knowledge, your stories, and your passion and your gifts with us. And people, go check out Jenny's music. Go find her on YouTube and subscribe to the channel.
please, I need like 900 more subscribers.
Oh, girl, you've come to the right place.
Help me out. So,
So, thank you to all of you listening and watching. Speaking of YouTube, if you are watching this on YouTube, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend. And if you're listening on your favorite audio platform, make sure you like us, leave us a review. That's how we grow here at the What the Nell podcast. So, thank you so much for listening. And as always, I will catch you on the next one.
all right.